Good morning, and thank you for joining me for 80 Days Closer to Christ, where I'm on a mission to help you come closer to Jesus Christ. Today, we are focusing on studying Alma's chapter 51 to 22. Our thought for today is, the world will turn aside for the young man who knows where he is going. I've certainly seen that this is true for myself and many other colleagues that I've associated with or been in business with. And I know that when we have a focus, that focus really does change our lives and bring us to where we have the desire to be. We are going to mark and ponder Alma chapter 53, verse 10. And now, behold, I have somewhat to say concerning the people of Ammon, who in the beginning were Lamanites. But by Ammon and his brethren, or rather by the power and word of God, they had been converted unto the Lord, and they had been brought down into the land of Zarahemla, and had ever since been protected by the Nephites. Now, this is so perfect, especially for what we're going to be studying throughout the next couple of days. But what I want to point out here is that the goal of Ammon and his brethren were that they might be able to convert the Lamanites over into a way and life of peace and harmony with all people, not just the Lamanites or the Nephites, but with everybody that they associated with. And we see that the work that Ammon and his brethren did was very powerful in creating peace and harmony throughout the land. This was their focus, and they achieved that focus that they had set out for, because that's where their hearts were focused. And as we continue to prioritize these things in our lives, we will continue to reap those rewards. Okay, so we are going to turn to Alma 51, verse 10. Now, this is a little bit different story than what we were just reading, but verse 10 says, But behold, we shall see that his promise which he made was rash. Nevertheless, he did prepare himself and his armies to come to battle against the Nephites. Now, we are talking about Pehoran, who is the new leader of the Lamanites. And I'm sorry, not the new leader of the Lamanites. Pehoran was the new leader of the Nephites, but Amalickiah was the leader of the Lamanites, and he swore to drink the blood of Moroni. And so he has been preparing for this for years, to slay Moroni, who has been such a huge thorn in his side. Amalickiah thought he was going to be able to come in, destroy the Nephites, take over, and get power over the Nephites and the Lamanites. But as we've seen over the last several chapters, Moroni was so good at fortifying the cities and using strategy to protect his people, their liberties, their families, their wives, their children, their land, and their country, and their freedom to religion, that he was able to strengthen even the weakest cities. As you remember, the city of Ammonihah and the city of Noah were some of the weakest in the area. But when the Lamanites came in, the Nephites were strong enough and fortified enough that the Lamanites were not able to overtake those cities like they thought they were going to be able to. So now what we're reading is that Amalickiah prepared, even though we're going to see that he was going to fail, he prepared his armies to be able to come against the Nephites and destroy them. But we're going to see that didn't quite work for him. And Amalickiah actually goes down to battle with the Lamanites to destroy them. Let's go to verse 18. And it came to pass that the armies did march forth against them, and they did pull down their pride and their nobility, insomuch that as they did lift their weapons of war to fight against the men of Moroni, they were hewn down and leveled to the earth. So Amalickiah, again, thought it was going to be easy for him to come in, destroy the Nephites, but that just was not the case. So if we jump over to verse 21, and thus Moroni put an end to those kingmen. So the kingmen were fighting against the freemen, so the men who wanted to protect their families and their rights. That they were not any known by the appellation of kingmen, and thus he put an end to the stubbornness and the pride of those people who professed the blood of nobility, but they were brought down to humble themselves like unto their brethren and to the fight valiantly for their freedom from bondage. And it came to pass while Moroni was thus breaking down the wars and contentions among his own people and subjecting them to peace and civilization and making regulations to prepare for war against the Lamanites, behold, the Lamanites had come into land of Moroni, which was in the borders by the seashore. This is the first time that we see that the Nephites are not prepared, because remember, Moroni's job is to maintain not only peace against their enemies, but peace within. And it came to pass that the Nephites were not sufficiently strong in the city of Moroni. Therefore, Amalickiah did drive them, slaying many. And it came to pass that Amalickiah took possession of the city, a possession of all their fortifications. So what I want you to learn here is that as we begin to break down internally, we begin to be divided. And I'm talking about our families, our communities, even within ourselves, that as we begin to have that contention in our homes or within ourselves or our communities, we start to become weak. And we start to find or see ways that the adversary is able to get in. Here are some questions that I thought of. Actually, before we do that, let's turn to verse 16. This is Moroni's objective. For it was his first care to put an end to such contention and dissensions among the people. For behold, this had been hitherto a cause of all their destruction. And it came to pass that it was granted according to the voice of the people. So this is just confirmation that Moroni believes, and we see that when there is contention from within, there is a breakdown without. So just good things to keep in mind. A couple questions to ask yourself, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. How do you eliminate the battles within yourself? What are some ways that you can reduce those battles and be able to have the strength that you need against the adversary? And we see this over and over throughout the Book of Mormon and throughout other scriptural texts. What are ways that people have been able to be strengthened? And what are ways that you have found yourself that strengthens you? How are you victorious against the wars that you face? Are you building up fortifications? Are you strengthening your spirit and your soul? Are you doing things that help you to overcome the difficulties and trials that you face in your life? Are you strategizing against your adversaries? Moroni was a really, really great example of this and the strategies that he used. How can you relate the strategies that Moroni has used over the last several chapters of Alma in your own life? How can you relate building up the dirt in heaps around yourself to keep you safe and protected? You can also refer back to, I believe it was Philippines, where we talked about the armor of God. How can you relate those pieces of armor to your life? And one last question for you to think about. Do you seek out the Prince of Peace? The one who came to this earth, the reason for this season. The Prince of Peace. What more can I say on this one? He's called Prince of Peace for a reason. And when we turn to him and we have a desire to do his will, no matter how difficult it is, then we are blessed with peace in our lives, even if it's only peace from the inside out. We are strengthened in ways that can't always be explained. Sometimes it's just hard to take that initial step. But if you pray to him and you seek out his guidance, he will guide you in your life. Thank you so much for joining me today. We'll see you tomorrow.